Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to round 4 coverage of my games from the Pacific Southwest Open. In this game I was facing another adult like myself, and my rating for this tournament was 1763 and my opponent's rating was 1768, so a very evenly matched game. I started off with d4, he went d5, and I went c4. And he went knight f6, the martial defense. And I've talked before on this channel about how the martial defense is not a particularly good opening. If you want to refute it, then just take here. That's what I did. And then black takes back with the knight or the queen. Usually the knight, that's the more common move. That's what I usually see. And after knight takes, you play first knight f3, and then you play e5, or try to arrange e5. Sometimes black will try and delay you from playing e5, but you can always get that in and kick that knight back and gain a tempo. And so that's why it's not a particularly good opening. It allows white to gain a tempo and build a big center. So he took with the queen. That's the other way of playing it, and you get the tempo immediately. Knight c3, and he just dropped his queen back. The queen can also go to a5. So I go knight f3, and he went b6. So you might wonder why my opponent is playing like this. So I thought I would try and think about this from black's point of view for a little bit. So surely my opponent, who's an experienced player and at the same level as me, realizes it's not a great opening. But there are some positives here for black. One of them is that already on move 5 here, we're at a position that's not in any opening book. so it's not a position I've faced before over the board. So he has the advantage that he's familiar with this position and I'm not. Secondly, it's a cramped position for black. That's why you don't see people playing this way at the top level, because they like to have a little more space. They don't want to get stuck in some squeeze. But it's not losing immediately. There's not some big breakthrough that white has that what tears up the center and opens things up and defeats black right off the bat. So black has time to develop his pieces, and as long as he doesn't mind the cramped position, he can just kind of wait around and look for opportunities, little mistakes by white as white tries to press forward the attack, and there's counterplay opportunities as well. So that's what black is going for in this opening. Let's see, I went with e4. He went with bishop b7, so already you can see the pressure building on the center, and I just defended with bishop to d3. Now it's interesting, the chess engine wants to deal with this pressure by pushing the pawns. Pushing either pawn would actually solve the problem, although it's kind of a committal to push those pawns so early. That's why I prefer to kind of hold things on. Also, I don't like to open things up while my king is in the center, so that's another reason why I don't normally think of pushing. But if you look at the particular lines that the chess engine is following, it says after e5, knight d5, a very logical move, it plays e6. So that's the idea with the e5 push. And that's a very interesting idea. Didn't think of this at all during the game, but now that it's been pointed out by the chess engine, it's a pretty annoying pawn here. And if he takes that pawn, he's opening up diagonals to his king, and he's going to have trouble developing his bishop. And in addition to disrupting his pawn structure there, it also opened up this knight e5 square, this e5 square for my knight. So and I'll have a pretty good position there and some pressure on the dark square. So anyway, the chess engine really likes that for white. The other way the chess engine thinks is playable here, the second choice, well, I guess these are both top choices. I forget which one was first and second, but they're both good for white. d5, e6, which is the natural move from black to try and undermine the center. Then this check, and after black blocks the check with either f or c6 or knight to like bd7, then taking on e6. So disrupting black's pawn structure in a different way, and leading to some to a weak pawn here on e6 that black can pile up on. So white can pile up on. So anyway, both of those moves lead to big advantages for white. This also, bishop d3, what I played, also leads to an advantage for white, but it's not as strong as those other moves, at least according to the chess engine. Anyway, black played e6 now, I castle, bishop e7, Now I play h3. I'm preparing the move bishop to f4. And I want, when the bishop is out here, I want to be able to meet the move knight h5 with the retreat of the bishop. So just prepare that in advance. Black castles, and I play bishop f4, which is still a good move. This still keeps an advantage to white. But, well, the chess engine has another interesting idea here about how white can organize his forces. And, well, it's, I think, a really nice idea. This is, I'm not so sure about those pawn pushes. Even if I had spotted those ideas, I find it hard to push central pawns while my king is still castled. But this idea is something I think I would have played if I had spotted it. And that's to play the move queen c2 first. Queen goes to c2. This comes with a threat. The threat is you're pushing this pawn, and after the knight moves, grabbing on h7 with check. So the defense here, king h8, means that you could still do the same thing, but after you grab the pawn, the bishop gets trapped because you're not taking with check anymore. So that's a reasonable defense. But now rook to d1. So this queen c2 move gained a tempo to get the queen off the back rank and open up the d1 square for the rook. And the other rook is going to come to c1. So a reasonable deployment after knight bd7, then bishop f4. So it's not a bad square for the bishop, and then to be followed up at some point with rook to c1. And it looks like, yeah, white's got a very nice development. Got all his pieces on good squares, and this rook may be more valuable on the d file than it was on the e file, which is where I put it in the game. Let's see. But in the game, I went bishop f4 immediately. Still keeping an advantage, like I said, knight bd7. He goes, and now I go rook e1. My idea with rook e1 is to over-defend this pawn so my pieces are free to move. So he's got 2 attackers, but I have 3 defenders, so I can maneuver around with my pieces more easily. But now he counterattacks in the center immediately with c5. And well, after c5, the move d5 is pretty natural, and I did think about this one for a long time. But in the end, I couldn't tell if this was a good move or not. So the chess engine assures me it is a good move. But, well, black is going to take. And then I'm going to be left with this isolated pawn, which is passed. It's an isolated passed pawn, which passed pawns are strong in the endgame, but isolated pawns can become a weakness. Well, after, say, knight e8 to prepare to blockade that pawn and bishop b5, I've got it well defended, and I mean that's the problem with this pawn, is it always has to be defended by pieces. But I guess it's strong enough that the advantage of having that pawn there is it's controlling squares inside black's camp, and it allows me to place my pieces actively. So it's just continuing this strategy of cramping black's position, and it's so difficult for black to maneuver here that he's never going to be able to play a move like knight c7, just fork those pieces. So it's going to be difficult for him to get a lot of pressure on that pawn. So that's why this d5 push works. I just have to say it's a very difficult decision to make during the game. And anyway, I thought about it for a while, and I decided on a different plan. I went with knight b5, looking at some of these dark squares here that he weakened when he pushed the c-pawn forward. So he immediately challenged my knight with a6 and asked me where it was going, and I dropped it in on d6, and that was my idea. I thought this would, when I was planning this out, I thought this would force a trade of knight for bishop, and I would gain the bishop pair advantage. But afterwards, after I played knight d5, and knight b5 rather, I started to realize that black had other options here. In fact, either queen b8 or queen c7 is a pretty interesting move here for black. And in fact, this equalizes according to the chess engine. It's putting immediate pressure on my knight, and I mean, he's threatening to take it. The knight is hanging, and my bishop is loose back here, so I have to be careful how I play. I don't have time to drop my bishop back to a square where it's defended, and I have to play something like knight takes b7, and then he can take this bishop, and so that's just a trade of bishops. That didn't help me at all. e5, kicking his knight and providing an escape square for my knight. My knight is nearly, well, it is trapped there. It has nowhere to go. So I'm in trouble, but his knight is under attack. Anyway, the chess engine rates this position as even, but, well, I guess anything could happen from here. So that would have been black's chance to equalize. Instead, he traded, so I was happy to see that after I realized that problem. I took back, and let's see, he went rook e8, his rook is under fire, and now I played rook c1, which is a mistake. So the move I thought about, and here I spent another long period of time thinking, is e5. Another very committal kind of move. Once you've played a move like e5, you know that bishop is going to be stuck there for a while, it seems. Looks like the immediate retreat is blocked off. But, well, the chess engine likes e5. And maybe because of this sequence, the pressure, I can build up pressure on the c-pawn. In fact, the chess engine wants to just take here right away. You know, I was thinking he might try to keep the bishop sealed in. Yeah, he's not yet threatening to... am I threatening to take there? Pawn takes, pawn takes. Yeah, I guess I am threatening to take there. He could keep defending. Anyway, yeah, the chess engine wants to take here. And if it goes like this, well, then at least the bishop has an escape along this diagonal. He gets some activity with his queen h4, coming out, hitting my knight. And well, I drop my bishop back to f1. That defends the knight and maybe strengthens the king side a little bit, which is under some distant pressure from that bishop. So this position is good for white, according to the chess engine. This is how to keep an advantage. Yeah, the move I played is rook c1 is actually a tactical mistake, although we'll come to the tactic later. He didn't play it right away, so I'll give you a chance on the next move to find the tactic. Played rook c1, and I dropped my bishop back. Instead of dropping my bishop back, once again, I should probably play either e5 or retreat the bishop, just get it out of trouble. But I dropped my bishop back, and so once again, it's a tactic in this position. So if you want to try and spot the tactic here, I think it's a pretty interesting one, and my opponent found it in the game. Okay, he played the move. Yeah, pause the video if you want time to think about it. I'm giving the answer away. He played the move, knight takes e4. And yeah, it caught me by surprise. But the idea is if I take, he takes, and I keep taking, then he can throw in the move knight to f6. And unfortunately for me, that's a double attack. So my loose bishop here has finally gotten me into trouble. Rook back to e1, queen takes d6, and, well, if I try to mess up his pawns like this, actually, the chess engine rates this as even, and completely even, you know, 0, 0, 0, not approximately even, but totally even. Maybe, it's not clear why to me. I mean, I would rather have black here with the extra pawn, but maybe, you know, I can blockade with my knight on those two squares, and he can't make any progress. You know, I already have a little pressure on his weak pawns. I mean, obviously black has weaknesses, but it's not clear to me that that those are enough compensation for the pawn, and we are in an endgame where that extra pawn is worth a lot. Anyway, I didn't like that line so much. So after knight takes, I took with the bishop. I did this trade, and then I decided not to take back with the rook, but to play d takes c5. Which the chess engine thinks black is a little better after this. You know, it's still kind of interesting. I thought I could exploit his loose bishop here. The problem is his bishop can always take my knight with tempo because it hits the queen, so I was never able to really exploit that. He plays knight takes c5, grabbing the pawn and defending his bishop. And so now, for example, if I were to try rook takes c5 and then rook takes bishop, he doesn't take back the rook immediately. He takes the knight first, and after I take the bishop, then he takes the rook. So it's just not working for me. Let's see. I played knight to e5, and he plays bishop to d5. So this forces a trade of my bishop. So I take, and he takes. Oh, he didn't take back right away. That's right. He threw in the move queen g5. Interesting intermediate move, threatening mate here. And by this time, I was in serious time trouble. I had to you know, there are various points in this game where I had to stop and think. One was when I was pressing the attack, trying to figure out the best way, or trying to continue from the opening advantage. And the second time was when I was trying to figure out whether or not to play that move e5 or not. That's a very committal kind of move, and would make a big difference in the game. And then the third time where I had to pause and really think for a long time was after that tactic. I had to try and figure out the best way to deal with the tactic. So at this point, I'm low on time, and he has quite a big time advantage because he's been moving pretty smoothly. But I did find this move knight to g4 here, which I think is a good defense. It immediately stops the mate threat, and if he kicks the knight away, it can come to the e3 square and defend that way. So it seems to hold everything together. So at this point, he has to take my bishop. And we can look at this position and compare it to the other line, which the chess engine liked, where you went directly into the endgame. The pawn structure is identical. The difference is that in this line, I still have a queen and a knight versus a queen and a bishop. Now, the chess engine likes black here. It thinks black is still better with the extra pieces, but as a practical matter, I would rather have this position where, you know, I've still got the queen and the knight on, and there's opportunities for trickery of various kinds. Let's see. I played b3 here. He went rook e d8, putting the rook opposite my queen, and I should probably play queen e2. But as I said, I was playing quickly here, and I played rook to e5, and that's a blunder. Now, my opponent missed this one. He didn't find the best answer here, so I think this is where his strategy of moving fairly quickly. I don't know if it was a strategy at this point. I mean, maybe he always likes to move fairly quickly. But it seemed to me also a possibility was that he was moving quickly in order to take advantage of my time trouble, keep the pressure up on me. So he just played, what did he play? Queen e7 here, I think, just retreated his queen. But there is a tactic here, so if you want to pause the video, see if you can spot the tactic for black. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. This is actually kind of a complicated one, so maybe he thought about it for a little bit and rejected it. But bishop takes b3 is a winning move here. So what to do? First of all, if I take his queen, then he takes my queen with check using the rook. And when I take back, he takes with the bishop. So that's a little bit of trickery that's involved. He has to take with the rook so that he gets his bishop out of trouble. And but at the end of this, he's won another pawn. And now it's rook and bishop versus rook and knight, but he has two pawns. So that's a clearly winning endgame. The other thing I could try here is I could try now. My knight is under my rook. My rook is under attack from his queen, so I can't go anywhere. But I could go like queen to e1 here, and still protect this rook and protect and just get away from the rook and the bishop here that are attacking my queen. But well, maybe this is the line he didn't like. There is a clever a clever continuation here for black, which is queen takes rook. And this is the only line, so I guess he would have had to see this. Queen takes rook also is still winning. You know, I have to take back, and then he plays rook to d1 check, and well, that trade is forced. And then he takes with the bishop, and once again he gets rook and bishop versus rook and knight, and he's two pawns up, so winning endgame. So anyway, if he had taken his time to really think through that those tactical ideas, you know, he could have won this game at this point. Instead, he dropped his queen back to e7. He's still better here, so maybe he didn't think about it, or maybe he did and he didn't see all the complications and thought it was just safest to play this way. But keeping some edge. Now I go queen e2, get my queen out of trouble. He goes c4, kicking. And I don't know why. Yeah, I think this was a mistake. He didn't have to play c4, and in fact, I can just take that pawn. And what is kind of mysterious is I don't know why I didn't take it, but I think that has to do with the time pressure. So I played the move knight to c3. hitting his bishop and threatening to take the pawn with my knight. But really, I could have just taken it. And he played queen a3, so he's playing actively and trying to create problems for me. And I went queen to c2. So now I've got a pin on this pawn. And through all of this, black is still keeping his advantage. So this c4 move, oddly enough, was not a huge blunder, but I guess maybe there's some trickery he can play after I take. But anyway, yeah, black is keeping his edge through all of this. But well, I was starting to feel like maybe I had enough compensation here, and things were looking a little bit up for me. Yeah, so anyway, there's a mate threat if he takes. I take, he takes. His king is, well, he can block with the queen, so maybe it's not a mate threat, but definitely I'm winning some material there if he takes on b3. So it stops the pawn for the moment. He played f6, hitting my rook. I moved the rook to h5. I liked the rook trying to keep pressure on his bishop, and he played g6, kicking my rook back. So g6 is actually a blunder. What should he play here? Yeah, he keeps the edge here with c takes b3. Now, since he played f6, his king is not in so much trouble. So I can take here, take with check, but his king comes out to f7, and I take here, queen takes, and he is 2 pawns up. His king is exposed to some checks, but it doesn't appear that that I can do anything like a perpetual check, and so it's 2 rooks against a queen and 2 pawns, and a bishop versus knight. So materially, that's 2 rooks are worth a queen and 1 pawn, and so he's still material up. But more than that, this is just a very easy position for black to play and a difficult one for white to play. So taking into account that I'm low on time, I think it's almost certainly a win for black at this point. The problem from white's point of view is that these rooks have to stay connected. They only really work well against a queen if they're coordinating. I mean, that's the advantage they have, is they can coordinate and pile up on a pawn. So that if I can coordinate the knight and the 2 rooks, then maybe I can take off his pawns one by one. But they're such clumsy pieces compared to the queen and the bishop, which move smoothly across the board. And at every moment, I have to always look for long sequences of checks that end in some kind of fork that I can't meet. And at the very start of this, both rooks are loose. So this would be a really hard position for white to play. So I think that would be winning. So that would be just taking immediately on b3. Instead, what he did was he kicked my knight. Kicked my rook with g6. I dropped back, and then now he decided to take. And at this point, it's a mistake. Although he's sort of running out of options, the chess engine gives the best move here is c3, which is kind of a funny looking move. I don't know. I guess I'm not going to take his bishop now. But doesn't it seem like I could maybe block here and win that pawn? Hard to say. But anyway, what he played was c takes b3. And now I go for this. I take the rook. He takes. I take with check. And he goes king g7. I check again. He goes king g8. And it ends in a draw. So the thing is, he can't actually play, in this position, he can't actually play king f8, which is the way he might try to come out. Because after I take on h7, this is threatening mate immediately with the rook. So he has to come back here. And then I have knight to g4. And he has to give up major material here to avoid the mate. There's just, with the knight coming in, there's just too many threats. So that is just losing for black. So he has to stay over here and play king g8. And then I just checked again. And there's no opportunity for me to, in this position, I could have thought about taking with this rook. I did think about it. But, well, he takes here. And, I can play knight g4 now, but this is a little too slow because he he queens with check and actually goes on to mate me. So either he gets mated or I get mated if we deviate from this course. So I just played rook c8 again, check, and offered a draw, and he accepted it because there was no way to escape. Of course, if the king comes this way, then this check is mate. So that's another mate in the position. So anyway, that was a hard-fought game. There was maybe the typical blunders from Class B players and time pressure, but it was interesting. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you again soon. Stay tuned for round 5, the final round.